You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice. Oh.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 139 episodes and counting. So that's going well. Without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callen, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Woods and Shore Studios in Aiken, Minnesota, Paul Volta. Shield, what's going on there, Shield?
Not a whole heck of a lot other than the fact that after a big warm-up leading up to the big game this past Sunday, it's cooled off, but the predictions stay red hot, and, well, obviously the better team won, and I was right at the same time, so more than happy about that.
Well, I got to give you some congratulations because you did deserve that, and Easy A picked the Eagles, apparently, and he said to fight him. What's there to fight about? You're just wrong on your prediction. What are we doing here, huh? What are we doing? So, and I picked the Eagles as well, and obviously, that didn't turn out to be. But, it was a fun game. Enjoyed it a lot, and we got a lot to talk about with our recap tonight. So, really looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. We did the over-under from our Super Bowl special on Sunday. So, we're going to go over that, see how we did, and go from there. And then we actually have a winner for the closest score, and that winner being, and I will do our new soundbite with drum roll. So, drum roll, please. Aaron Madsen, he gets the stickers for A, picking the Chiefs, and B, the score of 37-34. He was off by one for both teams.
All right.
Which is insane. It's kind of crazy. But,
not bad.
Not too shabby. So he'll have stickers coming his way. We'll ask him what he wants and, go from there. So I will be in contact with you, Mr. Madsen. So without further ado, let's just get right into it with some tater-tot hot take. And we'll go over the over-under, then we'll talk about the game a little bit. And then, after that, there's some trade deadline stuff coming up for our Minnesota Wild. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And then, where are they now? The famous segment. We've got a great slate for you guys this week. We got good old Visante Shenko, baby. Loved me some Visante back in the day. Manny Fernandez, another one that we all know and love, obviously, with our Minnesota Wild. So we'll be talking about that here shortly. And obviously, ARA got plenty to talk about with that. Some Super Bowl stuff, some MLB stuff, and then Shield shoutouts. Shoutouts. So let's go. Let's get it going with some tater-tot. Hot take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take, and the first thing we got to talk about is obviously the Super Bowl, the big game, and the Kansas City Chiefs 38-35 over the Philadelphia Eagles. The city of Philadelphia, I believe, is still standing.
As far as I'm aware.
I don't know of any besides flipping over cars before the game, so that just kind of shows how things are going with those fans and whatnot, but it is what it is. Let's start off with our over-under, Voldy. Let's see how we did. There's some good ones that, we knew was going to happen. I mean, why wouldn't it? But then there's some that we thought, oh, shoot. We did not, we didn't pick that well, but that's okay. Here's what we got. So our first one, our over-under 4 passing yards, Jalen Hurts. Voldy, both you and I took the under. He went over. He went 304 to be exact, 1 touchdown pass.
Not bad.
We weren't completely off. But
no,
I mean, not too bad. Not too bad. So we didn't get that one. Patrick Mahomes over under 275 passing yards. We took the over and he had 182. So all
right.
Well, starting off hot, right? No.
Yep.
And our next one, our total offensive yards for the Eagles. Voldy, you and I took the over. And, hey, we deserve some claps.
There we go. We're on the board.
We're on the board, man. We're on the board. So we got 417 for the Eagles. Claps going over and whatnot. Total offensive yards for the Chiefs, 350. We took the over. 340. 340. I can't believe it. Oh, my gosh. We got robbed on that one.
Yeah, we did.
We got robbed on that one. Then our next one, A.J. Brown to score a touchdown and go over 100 yards. Well, the good news is that he scored a touchdown, so we both got that right. So we're doing pretty well from there. But Voldy, you said you're taking the over 100 yards. I took the under. He had 96.
Oh, man. Come on.
96. I just thought Devontae Smith, and he did. He had 7 receptions over 100 yards. So,
good.
I mean, who would have thought? I mean, that was crazy close. But here's the next one. Eagles defense, over, under 4 sacks. Voldy, you took the over. I just took it right at 4. And, yeah, they didn't get any sacks. So,
they didn't.
Yeah. No sacks, which sucks, but at the same time, the offensive line for the Chiefs was fantastic. I mean, I got to give them some credit. We'll talk about that later. But Miles Sanders to score first Eagles touchdown. Voldy said yes. I said no. I said Jalen Hurts. And, yeah, it was Jalen Hurts, so we got that going.
Completely wrong.
It's tough. I mean, I just felt like Miles Sanders deserves some love, too, but I don't know. Jalen Hurts, over, under 70 rushing yards. You ready for this, Voldy?
Yeah.
He got 70 exactly.
Wow. Come on. Really?
Yeah. 70 yards, 70 rushing yards, which is crazy. So I don't know if they count that or not in the betting world. I don't know. But Patrick Mahomes, over, under 70 rushing yards. And we were right on that. So we get a ding. So that's good. We said Marquez Valdez-Scantling score a touchdown. Yeah, that didn't happen. He had like 1 target, so... Yeah, no dice on that one. Isaiah Pacheco to score first Chiefs TD. Voldy said no. I said no. We both said Jerick McKinnon. We went out on a limb. And, yeah, that didn't happen.
Nope, didn't work either.
Dang it! Travis Kelce, over, under 100 yards. Voldy, we both took the over, and he had 81. But still played really well.
And I'm glad we didn't put any money on these over-unders. Boy, we'd be broke right now.
We would definitely be broke right now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Chiefs defense over under 4 sacks. We both took the under, and hey, we get a ding for that one, so not too shabby. The Chiefs defense had 2 sacks. Eagles points scored over under. We had it at 22.5. We both took the over, and bing, we got it. So
nice.
The Chiefs team total, obviously with that, this is our last one, 22.5. We both took the over, and we got that.
Both took the over.
I mean, there's room for improvement. I think there's room for improvement, but hey, that's why we're going to have another Super Bowl special, and we'll right the ship. We will right the ship. And you picked the Chiefs, you got the win, so there you go. So anyway, let's chat a bit about the game here. It was fun. I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed watching the game. The Eagles up 24-14 at halftime. Mahomes gets hurt. A lot of head scratching going on there. So, Voldy, what are your thoughts on the game, and what are your thoughts going forward for this Kansas City team? I mean, are we saying dynasty now? Are we thinking that, or what do you think?
I mean, it's hard not to say, of course, on that same level of dynasty. I mean, their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. That certainly puts them in a different level than other teams in past. The game overall, obviously, with Mahomes being hurt towards the end of the first half, you're down 10 as well. You thought this is not going to be a pretty second half. But the fact that he came out, the big thing was on that first drive of the second half that they went right down and scored. That's when you knew that they were going to be in for a dogfight with the Eagles, too, obviously, with him gutting it out. And I don't know what happened at halftime, maybe the extra long halftime with the halftime show and everything that, shored up a few things, the adrenaline rushing in as well. That kind of kept things going for a little bit for Mahomes, too. But, nearly through that entire second half, you could barely even, from what I can remember a few days ago, barely even remember seeing Mahomes kind of limping around. He just completely gutted it out and just went after it. Had that big run to extend a drive late in the game as well. Then, obviously the late comeback with that 10-point difference, and then ultimately taking the lead to set up the game-winning field goal with just seconds left. I mean, this is definitely a team that if they've got all the right pieces in order, they're still fairly young enough in the right areas too. They've got some experience on both sides of the ball too. Offensive line, that was the big question mark coming into the game, and no sacks allowed. They put the right game plan all together. I mean, this team is definitely on that same level right now. People are already called for Patrick Mahomes to be the GOAT right now, and 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. Obviously, 3rd Super Bowl appearance in his 4 full seasons starting in the quarterback too. Hard not to put him at that level right now, but still got a ways away before he catches up with Tom Brady.
Figured you'd say that with the GOAT conversation and whatnot. I think he's got to win another one before we're going to keep talking about. But I would agree with you. I think it's hard not. You're hard pressed otherwise to say that they're not, because I think they have a great foundation offensively. I mean, you just add Mahomes into it and they're set. But shoot, you put Chad Henne back there too, and somehow, some way, they figure out a way to win too. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I mean, it's a great relationship between Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and that's the reason why we all believe that this could possibly be a dynasty. So. Before I go any further, we do have zoners chiming in, and I do want to get to them. There's Easy A saying, was that the highest scoring game in the Super Bowl in NFL history? I don't know. I don't think so. We'll have to look that up. But Jared says this had to be top 5 in scoring. I'd probably say top 5. Yeah,
at least I think so. I think that's one thing that they've been saying. It was definitely not a low scoring affair for sure.
Right. And then our good friend Austin Hanley, sleeping well this week. Yes, you are. Yep, just keep patting yourself on the back. No, but having multiple Super Bowls must be nice. Eric Bieniemy, next Chiefs coach after Andy. Sounds like Andy's gonna stay though. That's the thing, is Mr. Hanley, is that it seems like Bieniemy's gonna stay. So, Andy's gonna stay, but Bieniemy might be out. He's interviewing for OC positions because I don't know. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a head coaching gig yet. So I don't know if there's something brewing with that or whatnot. But we'll see. EZA says, if Andy Reid stays, then I'm thinking dynasty. I would agree with that. I just think that it's. I don't know. I think as long as Andy Reid stays, Mahomes stays healthy, they keep at it. Kelsey keeps producing like he always has, and I don't know. I think if there's rumors about DeAndre Hopkins, so. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no to that, but I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Must be rough to be a fan of Jackson Mahomes, though. It sucks, man, because that kid is just living off his popularity. I mean, honestly, and I mean, we all have we don't need to get in and talk about him because, to be honest, what is there good to talk about with that kid? Mr. Celebrity, so. Nobody likes, stay as long as you want. Nobody likes Jackson. Yeah, well, there you go. Well, even the Chiefs fans saying that. So, hey, there's some positivity with that, knowing that he doesn't like Jackson either. So we kind of talked a lot about Mahomes and the Chiefs, but let's get to the Eagles here for a second. Let's talk about the most controversial, the holding call. Would you, Voldy, with everything that happened during that game, in that moment, we all saw the replay. Was it a hold? He admitted it was a hold. Things like that. Do you think that the refs should have let them play? And just kind of thought, was there enough there to throw the flag is what I'm saying. What do you got?
I think there was. I am not the one to say whether there was or there wasn't. The call was made. Whether people think it was right or not, that's their own opinion. But obviously, if the guy admits that it was a holding to begin with, Bradbury admitted it, that after the game that it was a hold, then obviously he thought it was hold enough for it to happen. I can make arguments for both sides. Frankly, I just thought it was a very interesting time for it to take place, since everybody said that the Eagles were going to win, and the leaked script for the NFL said that the Eagles were going to win that one, but obviously it ended up being the Chiefs. So I just think that it was definitely very ill-timed, and whether or not the call should have been made, I mean, if it warrants a flag, it should be flagged. But obviously, a lot of people thought, no, you got to let things play out. Then, well, I guess that's just not the way it goes, apparently. So I think it was definitely worth a flag for sure.
I think so too. Especially if he's admitting it and things like that. Like, I get that, but people like in that game, the refs are completely, screwing it up. It's like, well, the pass that he had too, I will say, I mean, unless he saw it Mahomes saw it from a distance and thought, oh, I can get him for PI, which was, I mean, bloody brilliant if he did. But I would say with that call, you could make the argument and say, yeah, you could have not thrown that, but I think it would have been a controversy if they were able to quote unquote not throw the flag. So I mean, there's a lot to take in with it, but I would say yeah, you could. I mean, that was a flag, and
Right.
and whatnot. But I will say one other thing, though, too, is that there were plenty of opportunities for the Eagles to capitalize. That fumble that Hurts had, I think, was crucial because it kind of gave them a little bit more momentum back. I think they scored on the next drive after that fumble, but still, I mean, you can't be making those turnovers in this type of game and whatnot. And defensively, the Eagles just could not get to Mahomes, and that's the reason why I think that since they didn't get any sacks, and you're seeing the linemen for the Chiefs wearing a big old 0 on their shirts in the parade, I think today. And you got to give them credit. And they couldn't get to Mahomes, and he was running with the bad ankle and all. So, I mean, who do you point the finger at? So that's kind of my thoughts. But the Chiefs, they played well enough to win. They had a really good punt return, I think it was, from
Kadarius Toney.
And Kadarius Toney, I think, was a big pickup for them, and he gives them so many options on offense. So
scored a touchdown, too.
And scored a touchdown. I mean, him, Sky Moore, his first career touchdown in the Super Bowl. Hey, can't complain about that. Austin says, I'm curious who the receivers will be next year. I am, too. I'm curious to see what the Chiefs will have, because Juju Smith-Schuster's contract's up. He had a 1-year deal, so they're going to re-sign him. They're not going to re-sign him. We'll see. But I couldn't believe how many receivers were wide open for a catch. That, too, I mean, that's the scheme. And I feel like Andy Reid out-schemed Jonathan Gannon, which we'll get into later on as well. But it was a fun game. And obviously our over-unders, there's room for improvement, but we did get some, so we're happy about it. Before we move on to the Minnesota Wild here, one thing I do want to mention, Jerick McKinnon. Props out to Jerick McKinnon. He had an opportunity to go into the end zone, score a touchdown, and give them a big lead, but there's a lot of time left.
Mm-hmm.
He decides to go down right at the 2 or the 1, whatever it was.
Yep.
I mean, Jerick McKinnon doing it for his team. Minnesota, stand up. So, we're proud of Jerick McKinnon, and claps out to our guy. Maybe we'll get him on the show. You never know. Then the last thing, what do we think about the Super Bowl halftime performance? Did we like Rihanna? Did we not like the performance? What do you got, Voldy?
I mean, I was a little busy trying to give my son a bath or whatever, but he enjoyed the halftime show. I thought it did its job. I mean, the halftime show, there's always some sort of weird wackadoo stuff that happens, and like you get these guest appearances from all these other stars and singers. No, it was Rihanna. We got Rihanna, and that's what we had. So I wasn't mad about it. She played her hits. I was wondering about to what extent the catalog that she would dive into. She hit all the major points as well, and I was more than happy about it. So I have no complaints about it. And congratulations, she's pregnant. So congratulations to her. And I have no problem with it.
I liked it. I knew all the songs, so
Exactly.
that helps when you know a lot of the songs. So I mean, that's a good thing to have. I really liked it. I thought that Rihanna did a great job, especially while pregnant. I mean, for goodness sake, that's insane. Happy for her, and I thought it was good. So no complaints here. Easy A says, effing love McKinnon. We do too. We love Jerick McKinnon around here. So more on that later. Last year's halftime show was a lot more entertaining. It was. I really liked the halftime show with Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eminem, Kendrick, Mary J. Blige, I think it was. So, yeah, I really liked that one too. I would have just fast forwarded and continued the game. Didn't care for it.
Wow.
You're a jerk, man. Well, that's just your opinion. But,
Nobody likes you.
Yeah, geez, man. What are you trying to do?
It doesn't even go here.
Yeah, it doesn't even go here. I love it. So, well, no more football for a while. Besides the XFL, USFL.
Exactly.
So go Battlehawks. Official
sir.
fans here on MinneZona Sports Live. Since
right.
we don't have a Minnesota team, so we are Battlehawks fans here. Let's talk about the Wild. Voldy, there's a lot of talk. I'm just gonna go right out and put it out there. Patrick Kane. Is there any, is there any truth to the Wild possibly going after Patrick Kane? What do you think?
I mean, there's a lot that can be pulled into with this one, because I know there's been a lot of question marks with the Wild when it comes to, obviously, production on the lower lines. They need a bottom 6 forward to start stepping up for them. But, I mean, Patrick Kane and the Chicago Blackhawks, they're on the end of their road, and obviously Jonathan Taves as well. They're both at the end of their stints with the Blackhawks as well, after winning, 3 Stanley Cups with them too. But, I mean, there's a full new move clause in his contract for Patrick Kane, that is, meaning he controls his own destiny. There are a few teams that have garnered some interest: Carolina, Dallas, and also Vegas with Patrick Kane, and obviously in Minnesota too. Interesting to see, obviously, in this stage of his career. I mean, he can still put up the numbers if he wants to as well, but in his advanced age, he's now at this point where obviously he wants to go to a contender, but Chicago is on the outside looking in when it comes to that. If there's any way, I think the Wild are going to have to go, I wouldn't say all in, but they're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give the purse strings a little bit over to Chicago and give them some capital as well. I know the last few years trying to move, or at least there's been a lot of saying that that the Wild should try and trade Matt Dumba as well. I don't know if that ship has sailed officially, but you can never say never in that case too. But any chance the Wild could get Patrick Kane, I think, is going to be a bit of a stretch, but weirder things have happened with the Wild when it comes to trade acquisitions. I mean, they got Marc-Andre Fleury, for Pete's sake, and I mean that helped a little bit, but not to the run and to the full extent of what we needed. Marc-Andre Fleury last season, it was just more of a culture shock, if anything, and then him coming in and now going him and Philip Gustafsson between the pipes too. Here, at least for the first go of the season, first part of the season. It's very interesting, and again, like I said, for Bill Guerin and the squad to try and go in and get a guy like Patrick Kane, they're going to have to do some serious movement and give up some guys. I know that Jordan Greenway might be on the trade block as well. He's a guy that could certainly be moved elsewhere. It's very interesting to see how this is all going to be playing out with the trade deadline coming up for the Wild.
All this, and I thought, I mean, yeah, you understand the name, but he ain't the same guy he was back then. I just think that there's a lot to unpack with that, and I just don't think they're gonna pull the trigger and go after a Patrick Kane. I just think that it's right now. Yeah, do they need help? Yeah, sure, they need some depth
For sure.
But I think you can get some value somewhere else besides Chicago. And to be honest, does he really want to come to Minnesota? I mean, with kind of the rivalry and whatnot, but I just think that's I don't know. There's a lot of other guys I think they can go after that will give you what you want. But I just think at this point you don't look at it and say, well, Patrick Kane, well, we got the name on it, but I mean, is he going to be cooked? I mean, is he going to be like, Tomas Vanek when we got him? Because, I mean, it kind of sort of worked, but didn't at the same time. So, I don't know. I don't think they should. I don't think they need to touch that. So, we'll see if, but I don't know. Maybe Billy G's got other plans. But here is something I want to bring up to you here, to the Zoners and Voldy. Billy G is kind of like, well, I don't think we really need to trade as much.
Interesting.
Which is interesting because usually he's kind of the guy that'll
Go out and get somebody if he
go out
wants
and
him.
get somebody if he wants him. And I don't think there's he says I don't think there's a trade out there that can fix exactly what's going on. What is going on needs to be handled internally. Nothing's coming from the outside and snap your fingers and it's all fixed. This has to be taken care of internally.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you say to that when there's all these rumors about them still I mean, is he putting up a smokescreen here, Voldy? What do you think?
Could very well be, because obviously the last couple of years he's been very upfront about, like, yeah, we need this, we need to go get this, and we need something to put us over the edge too. So maybe this could be kind of changing gears and making guys feel comfortable a little bit before he pulls the rug out from underneath them as well. But I knowing from what Bill Guerin's experienced and from some of the chats that he's had, he doesn't mess around. He doesn't pull any punches. He's going to let you know how he feels and what the situation is, what needs to be done. So it very well could be just like, we've got what we've got. If anything, it's going to be some of these young guys are going to have to get more seasoning underneath them and just, play on out and, whatever happens, happens. But let's just hope for the Wild that whatever does happen leads to a playoff berth and obviously a playoff run here this year. But maybe a move or two needs to be facilitated for that to happen, or maybe some guys are going to have to step up, some young guys, especially here with this, recent stretch of tough games that they got coming up, including with the Avs tonight.
Just think, they just trust in whatever he's saying, but at the same time, we won't be surprised if he makes a deal. I don't know if they're going to be earth-shattering. I don't think that they will be at this point, especially with your current situation with the cap and whatnot. So, I could see them making a deal, but I don't think it's going to be substantial, just to add some depth and whatnot. But they need to figure out some stuff, because this, like we talked about, I think it was 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, that schedule is rough. I mean, they got the Avs, they play the Stars again, they play the Predators, the Blues. They always struggle with. I know they're kind of a down, but it's gonna be tough, and guys got to step up. And I hope they fix something that's internal. So, trade. I think Greenway's probably on his way out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Big rig, unfortunately. But you got to get something out of it. So hopefully they don't, trade him and then get a bad player or bad picks or, things like that. But we will keep our eye out as the trade deadline gets going here. So, we'll keep you informed on that. All right, it's time, Voldy. It's time for Where Are They Now? The last time we did Where Are They Now? Well, we got a guy on our show, Troy Stoudemire, our guy.
This time around, we can do the same thing again, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. But I think we got some good ones tonight. And if you haven't seen it, now you see it. Visante Shenko, Manny Fernandez on the docket. We're looking forward to it. So let's get it going with what. Where are they now? Where'd they go?
Check your milk carton. It's time for Where Are They Now?
That's a great question, Austin. Where are they now? And since we're kind of with the Wild theme, let's keep it going. So, Voldy, you have Manny Fernandez tonight.
Yes.
So, please inform the zoners. Where is he now?
Well, to set the scene here just a little bit, of course, a couple weeks ago, I've been thinking about, just randomly, I was watching a Wild game and reminiscing the glory days of the Minnesota Wild when they first came to the league, this little upstart team just trying to make its way in the NHL. And one of those cornerstone pieces of the franchise that made an impact was Between the Pipes, that being Manny Fernandez. The very first jersey I remember owning was a Manny Fernandez old green Wild jersey as well. One of my favorites. I don't know where it ended up. I'm hoping it's somewhere in the bottom of a pile in Jimbo's collection somewhere. If not, got to get that back some way, somehow here in the near future. Manny Fernandez was one of my favorites growing up. Manny Fernandez, born Emmanuel L. Fernandez of Canada, and of course, just so happens to be the nephew of, at the time, Wild head coach Jacques Lemaire in the opening years of the franchise. So a little familial connection as well. But Manny Fernandez owned, or earned his spot on the team under his own merit. Originally came into the league with the Dallas Stars as he was drafted, of course, by the Stars in 1994, in 92, I should say, but ended up with these Stars in a trade that would eventually end up turning around for Dallas to be a draft pick as well for the likes of Chris Drury, who ended up having a nice career himself. But after a couple seasons up and down as well with the likes of Dallas as well, he ended up getting traded as well to the Minnesota Wild in their first couple of seasons in the NHL. But, with the likes of Manny Fernandez, didn't yet officially play a full season all the way up until, I think I was looking here, until the 1999-2000 season. And that was when he officially was a rookie in the NHL. Fast forwarding a year later, 2000-2001, Minnesota Wild ended up with him and ended up being one of the original players on the Wild roster, going 19-17-4 in his first full season with the Minnesota Wild, but that was just a start for him and his accolades with the Minnesota Wild. So him and the likes of Dwayne Rollison early on in their career, back and forth, and eventually the success of the franchise and of the team ended up being all the way to the 2003 Western Conference Finals, unfortunately falling to the Anaheim Ducks, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, at that time, before they went on to go and fall in the Stanley Cup final against New Jersey in that time as well. But it was still a good ride with the Minnesota Wild and Manny Fernandez. Ended up being in the top 10 with his playing ability to get in the top 10 for a Vezina finalist as the top goaltender in the NHL in the, I believe it was the 2000-2001, but ultimately finished in the top 10 in the 2005-2006 season. So from the first 5-6 seasons, Manny Fernandez was a very well-appreciated goalie as well, and ended up in the 2006-2007 season, his final season with the Wild, him and some other goalie by the name of Nicholas Backstrom ended up winning the William Jennings Trophy. Now, this trophy is presented to the goaltending duo that ends up with the best goals against average in the league. That year, they finished with about 2.3, I think it was, in the likes of their goals against average in their time in the 2006-2007 season. But at that point, contract issues, looking to go into a new direction. They have this young prospect by the name of Nicholas Backstrom. He takes over full-time duties. They've got goaltenders waiting in the minors as well. They unfortunately end up letting Manny Fernandez go as well. But it looked like the fewest goals scored that year with the likes of Nicholas Backstrom in net as well. But certainly a big help to help him land on his feet elsewhere. Some other team decided to pick him up by the likes of one of the original 6 franchises, that being the Boston Bruins. They also had another goaltender, maybe not so much young, lack of NHL experience, we'll say, now finally coming over to the States as well, that being Tim Thomas, who ended up leading the Bruins to a Stanley Cup in 2011, but ended up playing just a few more games in the NHL with the likes of the Boston Bruins for Manny Fernandez. Only had 4 starts in 2007, 2008 with the Bruins, but that 2008-2009 season, the Bruins went on a really good run that season. Manny Fernandez was 16-8 that season in 2008-2009, which led to his second William Jennings Trophy win with him and Tim Thomas, that being allowing a 2.59 goals against average as well. But then, same thing that happened with the Wild. They've got this young prospect coming up by the name of Tuukka Rask as well, who's been tearing it up in the minors. Bruins decided to go for it. At that time, Manny Fernandez was looking on the backside of his career and is, looking at his mid to late 30s. And by that point, he was on the outside looking in, end of his contract. So it ended up being Tuukka Rask and Tim Thomas. Fast forward a couple years later, 2011, Stanley Cup champions, and a couple of nice careers for both those players as well. But after that, he decided to become a free agent, and for Manny Fernandez, never really went anywhere else after that. So it's been over a decade for him since he was in active play, but not officially retired as of yet. Now into the midst of his career as well. Manny Fernandez, in his time with the Wild, with the Bruins, and obviously that short little spurt that he had to begin his career with the Dallas Stars, finishing overall in his 13 seasons, 143 wins, 121 losses, and 35 ties and or overtime losses as well. So a very nice career for him as well. But things haven't really panned out for him after that. He's been kind of radio silent ever since that time as well with the Wild, and then going to the Bruins for those couple of years. He's been kind of floating under the radar. Has been spotted a lot more recently with one of his kids, actually, Mathis Fernandez is a goaltender playing in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, which is a breeding ground for NHL prospects as well, and a pipeline to the NHL. Mathis playing for Val d'Or in the QMHL, but they're off to a little bit of a unfortunate start to their season too. But Manny Fernandez is still been kind of radio silent. I exhausted my search in trying to find any sort of news article, any sort of social media as well, but maybe we can start putting the word out to see whether or not Manny Fernandez is active out there somewhere, and we can maybe bring him on and to just relive the glory days, maybe see what he's up to, what interests him, what he remember from his time from the Wild too, or even his time with the Bruins. We'd love to put that out, but so far for Manny Fernandez, where are they now? I guess he's just being a dad watching his kids play. That's kind of the thing for him right now. So, well,
the good news is that he's somewhere. He's somewhere, and obviously with his kid being out there and whatnot, so that's good. But of course, like always when we do this, check it out. We
out
come
there.
on, gotta have it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, mine this week is obviously the one Visante Shenko. And, Zoners, Voldy, this was a pretty renowned name here in Minnesota sports, especially for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's backtrack a little bit. And Visante Shenko actually did not start his career with the Minnesota Vikings. He actually started his career with the New York Giants. Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? Like, it's when I was doing this too, Voldy and Zoners, I was like, man, that was so long ago. But at the same time, it doesn't feel that it's been that long. So he actually played with the Giants for 4 seasons. Visante, stats weren't great in receiving. Right. The only time that he actually went above like 2 touchdowns or even 100 yards. He came close to getting 100 yards in 2005 with the Giants. He only had like 91 and whatnot. So didn't really have much to go with the New York Giants. And right. I believe, and don't quote me on this, Jeremy Shockey was the tight end at the time.
I was going to say, when healthy, I believe it was Jeremy Shockey, okay. And I think also might have been Kevin Boss, too, at that time as well. I think he might have been the third guy in the 2003, 2004. That might have been, might have been the Jeremy Shockey era in New York.
So he never really got an opportunity. And the reason, as I was looking through it, I was like, he really didn't, because he was sitting behind those guys and things like that. So he goes into free agency. And who takes a shot at him? Our Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings gave him a pretty good deal. And there was a lot of questions on whether he would be able to live up to the hype and whatnot. 5 years, $18 million contract. Obviously, it's different now, but he was a free agent, goes to the Vikings. He actually was very, very good for our Minnesota Vikings. His career is, ever since he joined the Minnesota Vikings, he had, over 300 yards his first year, 500, 409 in his last year with Minnesota. But the one season that he played very, very well, exceptional, was, of course, with Favre in 2009. He had Favre. They really relied on him, and he had 11 touchdowns for the Minnesota Vikings that season and over 500 yards. He had, receptions. He had 56 receptions, 566 yards, 11 touchdowns. And he was instrumental, and I will say he was very instrumental in that game, in the NFC Championship game as well. There was a call on him that was missed. It was like pass or holding or pass interference or whatever it was, but he still caught the ball. The guy was an absolute beast whenever you'd get him the ball. So I think he definitely lived up to his contract. I mean, the Vikings took a gamble, and he did quite well. And even after that, and I know things started to go downhill for the Minnesota Vikings, but, I think they were looking for something a little bit more, and, kind of getting the old guard out after the 2010, after that kind of collapsed and Favre not coming back, because Favre really relied on Visante, and I really enjoyed watching him play for our Purple. In 2011, he does his final year, and the Vikings get a guy called, what's his name? Kyle Rudolph, a zoner favorite, as we all say. So, but they kind of were like, well, we gotta get younger, and that's what they did. They decided to go with Kyle Rudolph, not re-sign Visante. But where does Visante go after that, Voldy? To the New England Patriots. Now,
right.
let me say this. He only played in 4 games. He was targeted once.
Yeah,
that was it.
I remember that.
Just
briefly.
Just once. And I believe they cut him. He goes to Tennessee. He only plays like 1 game for them. 1 reception, 2 yards. 2 receptions, 2 yards. So hey, it could be worse, but obviously his best seasons were with the Minnesota Vikings as well. So we're happy that Visante had his great years with us and whatnot. I believe he tried to get back into the league after that Tennessee time in Tennessee, short time in Tennessee, I should say.
Yeah.
He went to in between, he signed a 1-year deal to play with the Ravens, but then they cut him. But yeah, after that, he really hasn't done too much. But just recently, there was an article of Visante Shenko, and he's doing quite well. And he actually got to meet some of the Minnesota Vikings as well. Current Minnesota Vikings. Got to meet Eric Kendricks, guys like that. He's the only England native to suit up for the Minnesota Vikings. I did not know that. I had no clue until I was doing my research here and whatnot with Visante. And, he was a top-notch tight end, and he says he wants to come back. He wants to come back and see US Bank Stadium,
get him the 1-day contract
guys.
so he can retire as a Viking. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. No,
bring him back.
And then he also said too, I always said I would go back when I retired. He's been busy though, very busy. He's doing this thing, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Gavai Nutrition, a business he owns in Washington, D.C. So he's doing quite well, produces nutritional supplements, kind of like our guy Troy Stoudemire.
course.
So it's he was born in England and everything like that, which is pretty cool. But let's bring him back, man. I really want to see him back here in Minnesota to a game. I wouldn't be mad if he was in the Ring of Honor. I mean, I
No,
don't see
definitely
why
not.
not. I would never. I think he was instrumental in playing with Favre. And before I wrap this up, and I think the Zoners might get a chuckle out of this because there was an incident with our good friend Vizante Shenko, and unfortunately, Fox didn't realize something. The Vikings went on to play Detroit. They ended up winning the game against Detroit. This was at Detroit, and Fox didn't realize they had Ziggy Wolf was in there after a win. They're all happy, woohoo, yay,
Yeah.
Fox didn't realize that Vizante Shenko was naked.
Ah!
And and then they realized the towel was barely covering his private parts, and apparently his
Fox.
again, we're gonna put sprinkle on 13 here, showing his ding dong. And
hello.
it's so apparently I think he had everyone asking about that and whatnot, and Fox apologized and actually sent him a bunch of gear and things like that. Just kind of say sorry, we didn't realize that you were naked or whatnot, and he's probably glad that that's past him. But people have not forgotten, so there you go with that. But it is funny looking back on it and whatnot. But Vizante Shenko, I did actually have an interaction with Vizante Shenko one time.
What?
I was at the State Fair, Minnesota State Fair.
Yeah.
He was on with Sid Hartman. I actually met Sid that day too. He was talking with Sid and the other guy that's with him or whatnot. And Vizante was walking like right past me. I mean, this dude's big, man. I mean, he was
Of course.
yoked and everything like that. And I just kind of reached my hand out. I just kind of, bopped him on the shoulder and said Skull Vikes or something like that. And he goes, "Hey, what's up, man?" And that was it. But it was still fun. It was awesome. And I think he had a career year the next year too. So it's just, if you ever meet me, you're going to be an all-pro or like be a
That's how
great
it
player.
works.
That's how it works. Adam Thielen. Ask Adam Thielen. Ask Shenko. So
Kyle
doing
Rudolph.
pretty well. Yeah, okay. I'm kind of tooting my own horn, but still, I don't know. It goes pretty well if you meet me. So, yeah. And we would love to have Vizante Shenko on.
For sure.
Manny Fernandez too. So hey,
Manny
guys,
too. Absolutely.
we're here. We will reach out to you. Vizante has a Twitter, but I don't think he's used it since 2020. But hey, you never know. Never know. So we'll
Just got to put it out in the universe.
Exactly. We got to see what happens. So that'll do it for Where Are They Now? Here are our Where Are They Now? Vizante Shenko, Manny Fernandez. You never know. Keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes peeled. So, without further ado, we got a lot of Air A's. We got some Super Bowl. We got some MLB. So, let's get it going with some Absurd or Approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, welcome back, and it's time for some Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, to kind of put the cherry on top, the bow on that was the Super Bowl. Obviously, there were a lot of ill-timed manners that came to be with the Super Bowl itself. Obviously, the late flag from the officials on James Bradbury, this and that, and everything in between. Some of the turnovers on calls, on reviews of whether it was a catch, whether it was not. One of the big consistencies, or I should say inconsistencies, from the Super Bowl was the playing surface at State Farm Stadium, the big toaster that is in Arizona, which does have the feature of the field being able to roll in and out during the day, so it gets some sunlight, roll back in as well to maintain its proper look. And guys were slipping all over the place. They were back, forth, up, down, left, right, having to go into longer cleats and then still sliding around as well. It just seemed that the field looked it almost looked like the same kind of field conditions again at Soldier Field, just heavy, dense, not very well put together. Like it looked like it was a cake, basically, just covered in frosting, and just one false slip and whoop, off you go. Guys were slipping all over the place. Couldn't really cut. Couldn't really do that. I think Jake Elliott, who had the opening kickoff or whatever for the Super Bowl, he ended up, slipped on the opening kick. Still had a touchback as well. But this brings up a lot of things too. One of the guys that is in charge of this, a guy who's 94 years old and still handling the turf for the Super Bowl, actually had that stuff flown in. $800,000 for those field conditions for the field for the Super Bowl at State Farm Stadium as well. But this brings up the point, and obviously there have been a lot of complaints about field conditions with especially turf, guys getting hurt over the last couple of years and wanting a more natural surface. Is it absurd or approved? Should the NFL take a more serious look at field conditions, especially at big games like the Super Bowl, to avoid such incidents of guys slipping, obviously not being able to cut, and things of that sort, and looking into possible, limiting those injuries even more with those natural grass surfaces?
Yeah, I definitely think they should. I mean, this is the Super Bowl, for goodness sake. I mean, you can't just brush that to the side, especially with the turf and everything like that. I mean, guys complaining about it and whatnot, which, rightfully so. But, a lot of guys are just saying, well, that's just what we're given. We have to adjust and go from there. But you have to make sure that I think the game's in Vegas next year, if I'm not mistaken. Correct. The big game's in Vegas. So, I don't think they're going to have much problem there in Vegas, but who knows, I mean,
who knows?
You never know. But yeah, they should definitely look into that because, that can affect, game, that could be a deciding factor in a game. Like if someone slips, at the 5-yard line, can't get to the, end zone or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with it, but I think that they have to take a better note of it and make sure that they're getting the right things ready to go. And the turf's a big thing you have to make sure of. If you want to ask a team how well they do it, well, ask the Minnesota Vikings. Things are going well with the turf over there, so just saying. No, so yeah, a lot of guys saying it was terrible, slick. You couldn't do much, and yeah, if you're Arizona, I don't know if people want to go back. There wasn't a problem when the Patriots played there and against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So what happened? I mean, what's the deal here? So
yeah,
I would say like they have to look into it. So I'd probably say approved, look into it. It's absurd that it happened, especially on that big a scale. I mean, this is a Super Bowl. So, Voldy, what do you think?
My question is, why did they wait all the way until the Super Bowl to have a new field put in, as opposed to having the same surface that had been used at State Farm Stadium all season? Like, what difference does it make, honestly? Just because you've got that enough time from when the last home game for the Cardinals took place, which was probably at this point now almost 2 months ago, if not pretty close to, I would say, about 2 months ago. And then you bring in a whole new field for strictly the Super Bowl, and it's, I don't know how the turf grass management field works or whatever, but obviously that you throw in, obviously it wasn't as moisture rich down there. It was a very dry atmosphere that was in as well. Then you roll in, put on the paint as well. That it didn't seem, I hadn't seen any issues or concerns when it came to Arizona's playing field during the regular season as well. So I just don't understand why you brought that in for strictly this game. Obviously, it's a Super Bowl, so you get all the nice things too. But that's one thing I don't understand why you have to do that. Just paint the end zone, paint the logos at midfield. You're good to go. Why reinvent the wheel on this one? Especially when you get some of these big name players, you want the two best teams playing, obviously in the Super Bowl, and you get the best players playing at that point. They get hurt. That's going to be bad for the NFL bottom dollar right then and there. And some guys talking about how they were slipping and sliding. Jordan Mailata compared it to playing in a water park as well. Couldn't get good footing, and you're just hoping not to hurt yourself on the way down. Definitely needs something to be looked at here for the future. Definitely needs to be tightened up.
Yep, and yeah, like the water park thing kind of puts things into perspective, I'd say, with all that and injuries, especially with that. But as Case Keenum once said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
So that's kind of how we like it. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, fresh off Super Bowl losses, a couple of coaches for the Philadelphia Eagles will be calling their home elsewhere this coming season as head coaches in the NFL, as being unveiled here earlier this week in the last couple of days, that it was Shane, I believe it's Steichen or Steichen, I'm not sure if it's Steichen as well, but the offensive coordinator for the Eagles is now going to be head coach for the Indianapolis Colts, while defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon will now be head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, as it was unveiled here this week as well. Both coaches with their experience coming in, a lot of question marks in a lot of areas, but going to be guiding new things into obviously new teams as well, with both the Indianapolis Colts and the Arizona Cardinals as well. But is it absurd or approved that these first-year head coaches will have 500 or better records in 2023?
Well, when you look at both teams, the Colts, you look at and say, oh, they just went after old quarterbacks.
Yep.
And all that stuff, and they're like there, but they're not, and that's kind of the issue. It's like they got to retool the offense a little bit. I mean, Frank Reich, I think got the short end of the stick, but I also think that they have a guy that was able to turn the Eagles' offense into a juggernaut. I know Sirianni was a OC and whatnot, so maybe it was more Sirianni, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, that was the same question we had about KOC, and it seems like KOC is doing just fine so far, obviously. But I think if I were to put money on it, I think the Colts would be a little bit more better off. I'd say Steichen, however his last name is. I think the Colts probably more have a chance than the Cardinals. But I don't want to discount the fact that Jonathan Gannon, what he did with that defense, I mean, looked pretty doggone good. So I give
great cash, homie.
I give him some credit on how they were able to, do well on defense. Now, I will say that, they didn't do so great in the Super Bowl, so what happened there, they figure it out. But I think the change of scenery is going to help Gannon in the long run. Now, here's the question. Are you going to get along with Mr. Codboy over there, Kyler Murray? Or, is that going to, how is that relationship going to be? Because it seems like guys didn't want to work with Kyler Murray. That's the rumor. We don't know for sure. But, Sean Payton was talking with the Cardinals, and it seemed that worked out. And then rumors about that Flores didn't want to go there or something like that. We don't know. But I'd probably say the Colts, if I were to choose. I'll say it's absurd, just because I think there's still a little bit more work to do for both teams. But if I were to put money on it for next season, because I still think the Colts have a lot of young weapons on offense, as well as Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully he stays healthy, but defensively, I think it's Shaq Leonard now, not Darius anymore. But
yep.
They have pretty good defense. Don't sleep on them either. So we'll see. So I'd say it's absurd. I'll go with absurd. I think they're gonna need some time. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the first year success, especially the way the Vikings had this past year, that was a culmination of a lot of things. But there's a lot of question marks for both these teams. Obviously, like you had mentioned too, is the offensive line going to be good for Indianapolis this year as they were a couple years ago? Because this year they could not block to save their life. They've got a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. They've got some up and coming wide receivers too. Now, can they just get a guy to throw the ball for them? That's been the thing, obviously, with the changeover in quarterbacks they've had the last couple of years. Hasn't seen a lot of success in that area. So if they go out and draft a quarterback, are they going to throw him to the wolves real quick, or are they going to try and draft maybe, or not draft, but to try and sign a veteran as well if Matt Ryan doesn't come back for them this year or two? But there's a lot of big things that are going on, and that Shane Steichen been called, if you will, a mad scientist, if you, in the offensive side. But, with there being the offensive playing style that the Eagles had with Nick Sirianni, him being an offensive coordinator in the past, I believe he was calling plays for them this season for the Eagles too. So that puts up a lot of question marks. Will Steichen do the same thing in Indianapolis, or will he facilitate, an obvious offensive coordinator to be the one calling the plays too, and he'll have input on that? There's that. On the flip side with Arizona too, very interesting to see how that all plays out with that wide receiver, I should say a quarterback wide receiver situation, DeAndre Hopkins, whether he's going to be back or not. Kyler Murray, is he going to make a step up this season, or is he going to digress down that road that he did this past season too? Running game, a lot of question marks with them, with David Johnson, James Conner as well. I should say not even Dave Johnson so bad he's no longer even on the team to begin with.
James Conner.
James Conner for sure. I know he's still there, but him and obviously the lack of wide receiver depth in a couple of spots. They got some guys. They got a couple of young guys coming up too. It's just, can Kyler Murray do his job and even stay healthy enough is the thing too, because I know that he got hurt towards the end of the year too. That will put him back and set him back for a while. So to what extent will the offense have to see? But defensively, there are some guys on the defensive side that are going to be looked at to step up in a big way, especially with Jonathan Gannon being a defensive-minded coach, how that's all going to be play out. 500 or better, tough divisions to go into as well. Indianapolis does have a chance. They could make a run in the AFC South, but obviously with Jacksonville being up as of late, you don't know what you're going to get from Tennessee from year to year as well. Houston, who knows what Houston does this offseason, even with changes to their front office and coaching staff as well. In the likes of the AFC West, or I should say NFC West, it's up for grabs, I think. NFC West, Seattle had a nice year. Rams are ramming right now. I don't know what they're going to do here this upcoming season with Stafford and crew. And who else? Oh, San Francisco. Oh, never mind. San Francisco's got that on lock. Who knows? But I think now it's just 500 or better. I'm going to say it's absurd. Okay. It's absurd. I don't think neither of these teams will get 500 or better.
Yep. I think it's a process. I think we both can agree on that with them. So we shall see. All right, next one, Volde.
We kind of touched on it a little bit here with our Super Bowl recap. Offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. Now, he has been floating around for a couple of head coaching jobs the last couple of seasons, but opted to stay with Coach Andy Reid and obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. But now his name's getting floated out there for other offensive coordinator duties as well. Now fresh off another Super Bowl victory, third Super Bowl in 4 seasons as the OC for Kansas City. But obviously it's Andy Reid's offense, so he's the one doing much of the facilitating in that one. But the longtime offensive coordinator could potentially land himself in a hopefully a good spot to maybe even put his name out there even further for head coaching duties in the near future as well. There are some OC jobs out there up for grabs right now. Some coaches are still interviewing. I know that there are quite on 10 seasons as a Chiefs assistant for Eric Bieniemy. So definitely warranting to say that maybe his time may be coming to an end in Kansas City. But is it absurd or approved? Will Eric Bieniemy leave Kansas City to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else?
Sorry, Austin, but I'm going to say yes. I just think if I were Eric Bieniemy, I just think that being in Andy Reid's shadow has been a struggle. And a lot of people think, well, it's all Andy, and things like that. But at the same time, you got to have collaboration, and I think with Eric Bieniemy, he's done that. And a lot of Patrick Mahomes' development and what he's been able to do in this short span of time, I mean, it's like, well, it's because Mahomes, he's doing things like that. Well, they have so many options offensively on what to do with the offense. I mean, they go into they played Cincinnati last year. They lose that game. It's like, well, they win the one. Are they going to be any good? I mean, people are counting this team out. Not even making the playoffs according to Bart Scott, for goodness sake. And then they decide, well, I guess they're actually pretty good. No, Eric Bieniemy, I think, is a part of the development of Patrick Mahomes in that offense. Not saying that, Andy's, a mastermind, don't get me wrong. But let's see what he's got. I think if you bring him in as an OC, it's only a matter of time before he either takes that position with, let's just say, I think he interviewed with Washington, and then Pittsburgh, I think, is in the mix too, and I think Pittsburgh might be a really good place for him.
Might be.
Especially with Mike Tomlin, because there's a connection there, because Mike Tomlin was defensive coordinator for what team? The Minnesota Vikings. And Eric Bieniemy was a part of the staff as well, so there's a connection there. So I think that's a possibility. But I also want to put forth too that why isn't he getting hired as a head coach? He's getting all the interviews and things like that. And is there something that's not impressing or all these NFL teams and things like that? I don't know, but I guess for OC stuff, I would say that Pittsburgh probably might be the place for him, but I think he's going to leave KC. I think it's going to be this season, and I think I don't think it's any knock against Andy Reid. I just think he's looking for something different. So yeah, I don't blame him. I will say stamp of approval. He will be OC elsewhere and/or head coach elsewhere. So Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the time has come for Bieniemy to maybe start looking somewhere else too. Because at this point, what else do you really have to prove is the thing. And if you want to make that next step up, it may take him going somewhere else to maybe hopefully look at potentially becoming a head coach someday, hopefully in the near future as well. But I think, the fact that he hasn't gotten a job elsewhere, I don't know if maybe so much it could be a situation where it's like a Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels kind of a waiting in the wings, the heir apparent to the Chiefs throne as well. But I don't know if Andy Reid is just, holding out as long as he can to keep on coaching, and he just hopes that Bieniemy is going to hold out long enough to where he can just kind of slide right on in to be head coach for the Chiefs, or if it's just like they just keep butting heads and one's going to do after the other and waiting for the next one to flinch, basically. Neither one of them is going to relent. I think for Bieniemy, I think somewhere else is going to be the bigger benefit for him to, start being looked at as a head coach prospect as well, because it's not like the Chiefs are going to be hurt for, a potential offensive coordinator replacement. Matt Nagy is back on the staff as well. I think there's a quarterback coach or something like that. So he can certainly be a guy that's slipping into offensive coordinator duties. Was before certainly a senior assistant with the Chiefs staff previously before he was head coach for the Bears, and now obviously back with the Chiefs as well. So he can slide into that role and allow somebody else to take over potentially too. So I think Eric Bieniemy, I think the time is now. You got to strike while the iron's hot and become an offensive coordinator somewhere else. Now, it's got to be the right team. It's not like he's going to be interviewing, at Houston or something like that, where that's going to be that's going to be a labor of love, to say the least. He wants to impress now. He's just got to find the team that's got the right pieces. They're just looking for that that coach that can push them over the edge with some play design and everything, and the offensive style to benefit the team and also benefit the coach. That way they can have success.
Couldn't agree more. And I just think that, I don't know. I think if he goes to another team and they just blow up, but are they worried? Is he just going to be a 2-year thing, and then all of a sudden there's an opening, and there you go. So we will keep our eye on that one. So next one, Voldy.
Well, Major League Baseball continues to change the rules in many ways and forms once again, and it's making it permanent this rule that in all regular season extra inning games, a runner will be placed on second base to begin the 10th inning, and in every subsequent inning after that, until a winner is determined according to that vote that took place earlier this week, that the rule would return here in 2023, according to Coach Rob Manfred, Commissioner Rob Manfred, and for Major League Baseball has even introduced larger bases. The pitch clock looks like it will be enforced as well this upcoming season, but just continues to rear the ugly head of Major League Baseball trying to make the game more attractive to others, as opposed to real baseball fans who will sit there for the long haul. So happens to be a 16-inning contest. That's what you paid for it. You got your money's worth. If it takes 5 hours to play a game, that's baseball. There's no time. Quit trying to speed up the game. Is it absurd or approved? Major League Baseball keeping the extra inning, extra base runner rule to speed up the game itself.
Well, judging by the article and everything like that, I guess it passed unanimously, which is interesting because, I understand you want to speed up the game, and I know you want to change, make it more interesting, and this and that and this and that. Too much change, I think, is being had here, and I think people are losing interest because there's so much of this change. Now, it's like, you can add the base runner to second and whatnot, but, I mean, like you said, you get what you pay for. And, baseball is all about the suspense and, things like that. But,
right.
I understand the whole, I understand the whole deal about, like, hey, like, there's, I mean, if the teams are just so bad and blah, 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 they're not able to get it done. I mean, I get that. But at the same time, I mean, that's how baseball's always been.
Right.
So, I think it's absurd. But, they're trying to speed up the game, have a pitch clock, all this stuff. And, I'm going to be kind of the devil's advocate here and say I think it's absurd. I know you want to speed the game up, but I think there's a better way to do it. But I don't know what to give you with that, but it is what it is. Voldy, right. What do you think?
Look, why do we continue to try and butt heads on this? Like, obviously, Major League Baseball is trying to make the big initiative to bring in those casual fans and make them full-time fans. But doing stuff like this is not going to help. It's going to make it all super gimmicky and make it a shell of what it used to be. Extra inning games are a part of baseball. There is no time. There is no start. I mean, when the game's roughly going to start. You don't know when it's going to finish. It could take an hour and a half. It could take 7 hours. That's baseball. It could be 9 innings. It could be 23 innings. But again, that's baseball. Quit trying to enforce a sanctioned time limit on everything. The pitch clock thing, it has its good. It has its bad in the mix as well. I can go either way with that rule, but the whole extra inning runners as well. Look, if your team's not good enough to get a runner on base, you probably don't deserve to win the game as well. Quit trying to make bad teams look better in many different ways. And yes, if you want to get the game over with, well, then your team should probably win early and win often too, and learn to hit the ball a little bit better. That's what I'm saying in that. I think it's completely absurd. Quit trying to change the game just to make everybody happy.
Classic Manfred. That's all I gotta say.
Don't even get me started on those big bases that they just thrown in there. Freaking pizza-sized box bases.
I mean, shoot, you do that in pickup.
That's literally Little League size bases. I'm surprised they don't have the tearaway bases like they do in the Little League World Series.
Oh, gosh. What is this baseball? What has the MLB come to? That's my question. So, I guess we'll see. All right, I believe that'll do it for Air A this week. Great job, Voldy, as always. And we got some Shield shout-outs this week. We got a good number of them. So let's get it going with some Shield shout-outs.
Shield shout-outs.
Let's get it rolling with some Shield shout-outs. So, Voldy, who are you shouting out tonight?
Well, we do have to add 2 more names to the list of former Minnesota Pro athletes that have won a championship elsewhere with the Kansas City Chiefs, making their way to the Super Bowl and winning once again. That will go to running back Jerick McKinnon and tight end Blake Bell, who will be adding their name to that list as the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl this past Sunday. And congratulations to both of them. Worth a Shield shout out. And doing a little bit of research on the depth and the roster for the Kansas City Chiefs in anticipation of more Minnesota Pro athletes winning a championship elsewhere, one name crossed the list there on the practice squad for the Kansas City Chiefs that caught my eye. Former Wisconsin running back, former first-round draft pick, former now Los Angeles Charger, and former Denver Bronco running back, Melvin Gordon III, on the practice squad of the Kansas City Chiefs, is going to get a Super Bowl ring. He went from being a feature back in the Chargers and also with Denver to start. He was with Denver to start the season, and now it's been labeled as an outcast. And I don't know if you've seen some of his quotes from being, obviously holding the Lombardi Trophy and all that. He went from being a starter to an outcast, and yet still got a Lombardi Trophy out of it all as well. So shout out to Melvin Gordon, right place, right time with Kansas City. But also got to throw out some shout-outs to championship-winning players, that being with the Los Angeles Kings and former captain Dustin Brown, as he was having his number retired by the L.A. Kings, and also had a statue unveiled right in front of the arena formerly known as the Staples Center, and actually has a bronze trophy of him casted hoisting the Stanley Cup as well from his time winning a couple of Stanley Cups with LA Kings. So Shield shout out to Dustin Brown and the LA Kings. And also just finding out before the show as well that the staff been finalized for the Vancouver Canadians, a ball club in the minor leagues of the Toronto Blue Jays organization. MinneZona's own Coach Joel Bonnet. Coach Bo going to be returning as pitching coach for the Vancouver Canadians as well. Best of luck here. I know spring training just right around the corner. Pitchers and catchers reported for a lot of clubs here today and obviously this week as well. So hopefully we can get Coach Bo on here sometime maybe this summer and see if he can hook us up with some Vancouver Canadians gear like he promised us last year.
All I got to say, is that it for Shield shoutouts?
That's going to do it for Shield shoutouts, yeah.
Only thing I need to say to Coach Bo, that offer still stands with the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
You, Coach Payne, I'm telling you, we'd be winning World Series after
Huge.
World Series with Coach Payne, Coach Bo. Just saying. But anyway, congrats to Coach Bo. And Voldy, what was that one thing? Oh, yeah, it was the A-Rod thing, I believe, where him and Mark Laurie does like 99% of the work.
Yeah.
A-Rod does like 1%. He just puts his name on it or whatever. That's what I feel like Melvin Gordon did.
Yeah, Laurie's the behind the scenes guy, and then obviously A-Rod's the face. He's the one that shows up on the day of the class presentation and still gets an A on the project.
Hence, with the Kansas City Chiefs, Pacheco puts all in that work and whatnot. He still gets a ring, but
works.
It works. So
got to look with the practice squad, and apparently pretty good enough to make the Kansas City practice squad.
Oh, man. Well, he was trolling guys on Twitter, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I enjoyed that a lot with Melvin Gordon. But great job with Shield shoutouts, as always, Voldy. So, with that being said, we're approaching 140 of MinneZona. Wow. We're getting old here. It's crazy. We're about to hit 150 very soon, too. So I think that'll probably be spring/summertime. We'll see. But, we'll have to check that out.
Interesting time coming up.
There is. Yeah, that is for sure. So without further ado, though, we've got merch, people. We got some
we
pretty
do.
sweet merch. Actually, I stole some stickers the other day. Got to send them off here to somebody. But yeah, we got stickers, $2 for small ones, $3 for the big ones. And what Voldy's wearing right there is the MinneZona Sports Live hat. We got a couple left, I believe. So $20, $5 shipping for those bad boys. We have shirts as well, $20, $5 shipping on those as well. So make sure you get that 5 out of 5 stars on everything. So be sure to check all that out. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, and Tyler Knutson for the stickers. Make sure you check out W2 Performance with Will Rattel, www.w2performance.com. And make sure you check out the Victorious POD with Jack Vickers. So, with that being said, that's it. That's going to do it for episode 139. We had a fantastic time talking Super Bowl as well as the Wild. There's a lot going on with that and whatnot, and we'll keep you all informed. And Vikings, Wolves, Wild, even Twins, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Hey, I'm looking forward to the Twins starting to play ball. Let's get that sooner than later. Then that means the weather's actually nice.
That's true. That shot was mainly at the Poleats, so
Totally.
I am excited.
I figured.
Yeah, so we had to throw that in there. But anyway, that'll do it for episode 139. And as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.